Good afternoon, everyone. It's Friday afternoon, and as you can see, if I just pan round, there's not an awful lot happened here on Piccadilly at the moment, on the layout anyway. You can still see all the trains, despite me saying I was boxing them up, are still actually on the platforms because I've just not had the time to do it. Now, what I am going to do though is press on, because to be honest with you, I spent so long sorting out that short circuit, I just got a bit fed up with it and I want to get things sorted. Now, one of my next jobs is to get that fiddle yard out. All the droppers, as far as I'm aware, are disconnected now. So even if I try and run something on it, I don't think it's going to work. So I will be pouring water on that very shortly to soften the glue and pull the tracks up. But the long-awaited moment, many of you have been trying to guess what I'm going to do, and it's a bit different. I've not seen it before. Here we go. Right, just panned you in on the little golfing man there. Just before I show you this, there's been a bit of speculation from a few people whether it's going to be a helix or a ramp. A bit like Graham did on Lakeside. And I have to say, I'd rather not build a helix if I can help it. They are quite complicated to get the angles absolutely perfectly right. But if I have to, and this goes pear-shaped, then I might. But my second choice in all of this would be the ramps going up around the outside of the layout, very similar to what Graham did on Lakeside. But at the moment, if this works, this is my first choice. There it is. It's a lift. I'll show you how it works. So you can see there, this level here represents the top of the main layout, and this section down here represents the proposed new fiddle yard down below. So here we go. Enters the lift section. Okay, and stops. I am going to reverse it right now so that I don't end up driving it off the end. I put these pegs on the different sections just in case it does decide to zoom off. I don't want it plunging to a desperate death like that. Now, before I turn this on, the device that's called moving it is called a linear actuator. It is a little bit on the noisy side. It's not the most expensive one that I could find, and it is also very slow. You can buy some which go around about 50-60 meters per second, so that actually runs there. I didn't want it to do that because obviously there's quite an expensive train going to sit on the top, and the last thing is I wanted it jumping as it comes to an end. So this is quite slow. It's very gentle, and it will take a minute from either bottom to top or top to bottom. But here we go. So obviously it's quite important that the tracks line up, and this will do it absolutely perfectly. As long as you get the tracks level in the first place, there won't be any issues. There it is. And we'll just drive it off. And the peg comes to the rescue. Right, and let's see it going back up again. So again, driving onto the lift, stopping, going to reverse it so that it's ready to come off, and take it back up. Now, like I said, I do appreciate this isn't for everybody, and I also am aware that when the train is in the low, or the lift is in the lower position, there will be a hole in the layout, and I have got some suggestions or some ideas to do that, fill that over when the board's lower. But if anybody's got any other ideas what I could do there, then do say, because you might think of something which I don't, and Well, it would be a good idea for other people to be involved as well, obviously. The tracks line up absolutely perfectly. The only issues I've come across with this, and I haven't shown you, is the fact that the trains have stopped on the track, but it's old track. It's certainly not new track. It was absolutely caked in ballast. And in the olden days, I used to paint the rails with emulsion. And yeah, I've learned since then that's not a good idea. But hey, the whole thing works. So like I said, if you've got any suggestions about what I could do when the board is in the lower position, because as I said, there will be a hole there, then do say. One thought I did have was like a very long carriage shed, or maybe a wall behind it, or maybe even a flip down section, so that it could be in the upper position and be a building of some description or a wall, and then it drops down into the hole and becomes part of the ground substance. So you know, any ideas that you've got, then do drop those in the comments below, and I'd be really interested to see if you've got anything different to add to the situation. Okay, right, I'm going to take you back upstairs and show you more of the practicalities of all of this. Right, it's started to take up some track. As you'll see, I've taken out the back seam. There it is. Now, I had a question from Kevin from Medway Model Railway, I think it is, and he asked me how did I support the back seams. Now, this was the very first one I made, and this is effectively, it is 3 skins wide, but I'd have a board at the front and then another one of these at the back, and then in the middle I'd put verticals like that to create gaps. So if you can imagine that as a complete skin all the way along, and instead of these little rectangles, it would be the whole thing with these verticals up through the middle. Okay, and then I'd have these things, these metal brackets, and I literally screwed those to the baseboard like that, and then the whole thing would just slot over the top like that, and it holds itself up. Okay, so just to show you on that one, like that, and then there'd be a skin over the whole front like that. So what I did was I decided where I wanted the back seam to go, and then screwed these down, following the line. The top edge of this would be the position of the back seam, so I found the most convenient place to put this bottom bit, if you like. And then once I'd done that, I created one skin and then marked along on that one skin where all these came. That gave me the positions to put these verticals. You can see I've done one there, so I marked those on all the way around, drew around them, then I put these pieces on, and then on further ones of these, not this one, but I then put the back skin on, clamping it on as I went along. I kind of hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, Kev, get back to me and I'll see if I can help you a bit more. All right, thanks. Now I'm hoping to explain how this is going to work. At the same time, I'm trying to convince myself. Now, as you can see, I've taken this back seam out and all the brackets that were holding it down. Okay, they're all been removed. Now, you'll also notice, I know it's caught under the back seam just there, but that little bit there can soon be cut back. But there is a track coming out there now. I hope you can make that out. If I go in a bit closer, you should be able to see that. Yeah. Now, the lift is going to go in this section just here, up to around about here, give or take around this line. All right. Now, the idea is that I'm hoping to have 2 or 3 tracks on that lift. Now, the logistics of the track will say whether I can get 2 on or 3 on. 3 would be my preference, because I'd rather take more trains down at any one time than than having to keep making separate journeys, okay? Because it does take a minute from top to bottom or vice versa. It's not a quick lift, but at the same time I didn't want it to be massively quick. So what I'm proposing is that the lift goes, like I said, goes in this section here, and track to the upper level will come along here, along these two lines here, and from this point curve round, and make a loop with that. Now that's fourth radius, and I will double that up to make third radius as well, with third radius. So in actual fact, that's going to loop out to about there. 700 millimeters it is in diameter. Now you might say to me, John, you've done a really good job of working out the measurements on that. This is temporary, and it's only to get me until I can extend that way, and then I won't need to make any worry about it. I can sort of soften that curve by quite a lot at that point, but until that point comes, until that time comes, I've got to stick with what I can do. So it'll have to be a third and fourth radius curve round there, like that. Okay, so there will be a temporary extension of about 100 millimeters just in that little section there, up to probably the edge of the window. All right, so that probably to there, so the builders can still do their work. It won't be any wider than that, I can't be, but that should be enough. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the board on, and that I'm going to use for the lift, so you get some idea of what it's going to look like. Okay, now in a minute I'll take you back downstairs and I'll show you the longest trains I have actually on that, and you'll see they just about fit. My longest train is the containers, and it just goes on with about 10 to 20 mil at either end. All right, there's the line, so it's going to be cut off at that point. I got this piece of wood from B&Q, and I had an amount cut off, and I used that to make the mock-up for the lift downstairs, as you saw earlier on. So I've just got to cut that bit off. I wasn't sure how much of this I could sensibly use, but as you can see from down there, I've sort of mocked up a point going across, which would possibly indicate, with that piece of curved track just there, straightened out a little bit so it comes across more this way. I should be able to get two lines on there, and I'm kind of hoping I can get 2 points in there to bring two tracks onto here. I'd also, if it's physically possible, to leave another two tracks, if I can do it, down here, just between these two, for stabling. So it would be, if I can do it, that is, I'm not going to promise, because it might not be able to work out. So if I can sensibly leave those two tracks, lengthen them to the full length from down here, that would be a massively long couple of tracks, and I could get loads in there necessary too. I could easily get a Pendolino and a DMU in there, but we'll see. All right, so my next job now is to take you downstairs, show you the longest trains on there so you can get a flavour of what they're going to look like. Right, so there we are. There are my three longest trains, and you can see clearly that the containers are not by far, but they are the longest. They're pretty level at that end. The HST just, I'm pushing it a tad, but you know, with the slack in the train as well, because obviously when the train's pulling, it's slightly longer than when it's pushing. But you can see the containers just fit with a 68 on the front, and I probably won't be able to run. I'd like to get a hold of a 66, but I don't think that's going to fit with those containers. It'll have to run with something else. The Pendolinos, I run 8-car Pendolinos, 7-car plus 2 HSTs. Or it will anyway. The Virgin one's only 6 at the moment, but when I get the coaches for it, they'll both be 7s. So they're not quite full rakes in anything really, but it's in a tiny bedroom. Well, not tiny, it's in a small bedroom. You know, I can't expect to run completely full rakes. I just feel blessed that I can run that length of trains, and they're relatively realistic. They're only one coach short of a full rake in the HST and one coach short on the Pendolinos. So anyway, obviously the board will be cut off at that point. I think looking at the board there with the trains on, that's the limit, the shortest it can be. But looking at the layout, that's also the longest it can be. So I think that's probably going to be the best compromise. And what I'm going to do, there's the lift that I made up, the mock-up. I'm going to use the same board for it and then turn it so it's horizontal and put the tracks, these two rails or tracks, whatever you want to call them, at either end. So one at the top, effectively one at the bottom, but the board will be horizontal. The actuator, which is this thing in the middle, which is the bit that does the magic and the noisy bit, that's going to be in the middle of the board, pretty much where that shelf is, just there. Okay, now you might say to me, well, that's not tall enough, and you're right, it isn't. I mean, because I still need that height up to the layout. Yeah, I'm just going to put some legs on the bottom of the board, and then it will sit on those two legs, and the actuator will be bolted to one of those legs. Okay, I might end up turning it round. I've put it so the motor's on the inside, but I might have to turn it so the motor's on the outside, and even turn that bracket round, but we'll see. The whole point is it's a trial and error thing. It's not perfect. It might cause one or two issues. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. All right, but anyway, I'll go up and get those tracks up now, and we'll take it from there. There we are. All the tracks have gone, apart from those two there, obviously. I can't remember whether I said in the earlier, but I want to try and preserve two tracks if I can. It's like a holding yard. It depends on the amount of space. If I can make the track plan work, then I'll keep them in. If I can't, then they'll have to go. But we'll see. It'd be better if I can keep it. But there's all the track that's come out. All that now needs to be cleaned and washed. And I can honestly say I'm so glad that I didn't ballast. You know, many people have said to me over the last few months, why didn't I ballast? Well, it's mainly because I wanted to check running, but it's also because if there was any changes, it comes up easily. And this has come up so easily. I don't need to put it in the bath, if you like. I have a track bath, which is like a piece of guttering that I use. I fill it with water, let it soak all the track, and then scrub all the ballast off it. But I don't need to do that now. So just to recap, there's the lift. I've brought it back up from upstairs or from downstairs. I now need to modify that, like I said before, and flip the board round and then remount the runners down the edges, if you like, that way. Like I said, if you flip it 90 degrees, and then it's a case of mounting it underneath. And then once that's mounted underneath, then and only then can I then start thinking about the actual shelf, because that will determine the levels. All right, anyway, I'm going to leave this video there. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you like the idea of the lift. It's perhaps not everybody's cup of tea, but at the end of the day, it's a space-saving issue, and I think it will work well for me. All right, anyway, take care, everybody. Hope you have a lovely week, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please do like, subscribe and share, remembering to click on that little bell, and you'll get notification of my videos straight into your inbox. On the screen you might see some other videos that might take your interest. Okay everyone, see you soon. Bye for now.